Just play the damn thing.
You know, when you start a YouTube channel, eventually when the comments start rolling in, you begin to discover just how many insecure people are out there, particularly guitar players. I would know because I receive these comments all the time, and you can always tell that they're insecure because they're always taking pot shots at things about you that are totally unrelated. It's like in my case, it would be, my weight, the way I look, or in particular, my haircut. Now, fortunately, I don't take offense to this, and I happen to embrace my baldness as I have for many years now. Seriously, which makes it even more ridiculous that people comment on my bald head that I shave willingly, and think it's some kind of an insult. Dumb shits. But it occurred to me that myself being a bald guitar player, one thing I have never talked about on this channel are awesomely bald guitar players. So here is my list of the top 6 greatest bald guitar players ever. Theoretically, no particular order, but I'm going to try to put them in order of least greatest to greatest. But before we get started, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button to this channel if you have not hit the subscribe button to this channel already. It really does help out a lot, especially because I'm trying really hard to grow the channel pretty significantly this year, and I need all of your help in order to do so. Now, let's get back to the video. Number 6. Billy Corgan. Alright, now I'm not going to try to bullshit anybody into thinking that I'm suddenly Smashing Pumpkins' greatest fan. I'm not. I'm not even that big of a fan of Billy Corgan as a guitar player because primarily his guitar tone comes from that vintage Big Muff pedal that he absolutely loves and that I absolutely hate. However, if I'm remaining objective about this, and I intend to be, I cannot deny the fact that Billy Corgan and the Smashing Pumpkins basically wrote at least part of the soundtrack throughout the 90s, which was, when I was in high school and I was growing up, and part of when I was learning to play guitar and learning to play music. And there's also no denying the fact that he is one hell of a songwriter because he has written a ton of hits for his band. And I also have to admit that once upon a time he had a pretty cool signature Strat model. The Strat model with the lipstick single coil pickups in it, I still kind of want one of those. Number 5. The Edge. The guitar player of the Irish rock band U2, who was born David Howell Evans, has become synonymous with 3 things in the guitar world. 1, which I already mentioned his band U2. Number 2, the Gibson Explorer. And 3, the man loves delays. That dude uses more delay algorithms and delay devices and pedals and contraptions and rack mounts and think of a delay think of something that produces a time-based delay sound for guitar, and he's used it. And not only has he used it, but he's probably used it better than anybody else. He happens to already be a pretty okay guitar player in his own right, but I have to give him additional extra credit points for 1, his stocking cap covered bald head, and 2, the way that he has used the delay effect to take his guitar tone up to another level. In my opinion, it's a classic example of the sum of the guitar tone's parts equaling more than the parts themselves. Number 4, Cary King. I admit I'm not exactly the biggest fan in the world of Cary King's lead guitar playing. I think it's sloppy at best, but it has evolved into his own style nonetheless, and there are plenty of fans out there, thrash metal fans in particular, who love him for it. Now, being a diehard thrash metal fan myself, I have to give the man credit for, number 1, he's not only embraced his baldness, but he's embraced his baldness to the point that he actually put tattoos on his own head. The tattoos on his head, which have since inspired graphics on his signature guitar models over the years. And number 2, Cary King and his tattooed baldness have since become the face of his thrash metal band Slayer. Think about it. When you think of the band Slayer, who was the first member's face to come to mind? Cary King, no question. Even if you think Jeff Hanneman was the better guitar player, or you think of Tom Araya, the front man, or Dave Lombardo, one of the best thrash drummers ever, all that, etc., I'm not taking anything away from the other members of the band. But when you think of one man's face that is synonymous with the band Slayer, Cary King's is the one that comes to mind. Number 3, Scott Ian. Scott Ian is another legend in the history of thrash metal with his band Anthrax, of course, being another band of what we refer to as the Big Four, Slayer, Megadeth, and Metallica being the other three. I happen to have a personal fondness for Scott Ian for a number of reasons. Number one, not only has he also embraced his baldness, and number two, not only is he a great guitar player, but he is often credited with being a great rhythm guitar player, which you never hear about anywhere, especially in the thrash metal genre. And number three, much like Cary King, which we just discussed, he has also become one of the primary faces of the entire thrash metal genre, period, due to his work with his band Anthrax. Again, phenomenal songwriter, great guitar player, and he also happens to be a pretty big Kiss fan, which I also happen to love. Seriously, Scott Ian's a great guitar player. It definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number two, Tom Morello. This Harvard political science graduate has always had a passion for activism and music, and more importantly, intertwining the two of them together. Back in the 90s, his band Rage Against the Machine was one of the most politically vocal and active bands of all time, period. But even if you take his political smarts out of the equation, not only is he a phenomenal guitar player in his own right, but he's also a very, very unique guitar player in that he has incorporated various different sound effects, just using his hands and his own guitar and incorporating that into his music. He's the only guitar player on the planet that I'm aware of that's ever been able to make his own guitar sound like a record scratching on a turntable or make it sound like a helicopter flying overhead. I sure as hell never would have thought of that. Number one, Joe Satriani. Surely you're far enough into this video that you had guesstimated that Joe Satriani was going to be number one on this list, as he absolutely should be. Regardless if we're talking about bald Joe Satriani, ski cap Satriani, or even Joe Satriani with hair. He did actually have hair once upon a time. Most of the people on this list had hair once upon a time. I had hair once upon a time. Regardless of which version of Joe Satriani that you're talking about, his haircut doesn't make any difference. He's regarded as one of the best guitar players in the world, any genre, any era, anywhere. And he's absolutely earned it. He's been partners in crime with Steve Vai and their G3, their G3 shows over the years. And I admit I'm a bigger Steve Vai fan than I am a Joe Satriani fan, but there's just something really, really special about Joe Satriani's guitar playing. If you've never listened to it, you need to go check out his album, Surfing with the Alien. That was really his masterpiece record, his first masterpiece record, the one that put him on the map. And there's just tons and tons and tons of amazing guitar work on that album. And he's put out so much other great work since then that echoes the exact same sentiment. One of my favorite things that he has ever done, he and Steve Vai both played the solo on Alice Cooper's Feed My Frankenstein, and that guitar solo just made that entire song. And most people don't even know that it was them that played it. So there it is. There's my list of the top 6 greatest bald-headed guitar players ever. Don't forget to comment down below and let me know who your favorite bald-headed guitar player of all time is. And no, I'm not talking about me. Seriously, I'd like to know who I may have left out or forgotten about. Have a great day, everybody. Adios.